the spirits in the game and elders in the game. Let me talk a little more about the exploration that led to the design of our elders. We are talking about stories now, but don't forget that we are making a game. It's an experience. Characters we introduce in the game has to have a significance in the player's experience. Prototyping the game, we came to realize that we needed a strong beat after each major sections of the game, like how we fight bosses at the end of the levels. So the original idea of our so-called quote-unquote boss was some sort of guardians that presented challenges to the players before they could move on to the next level. We concepted different ideas about a character that could provide interesting gameplay along with an evocative story. We knew that we needed multiple of these guardians across the game and wanted to give them different characteristics to each. I was looking at different myths and stories about gods and guardians and learned that we often use animals as a way to represent different characteristics of unique gods. So I also tried to find various animals, creatures that represented the emotion of each of the levels and tried to convert them into different characters. Designing different animals is fun, but it's also very costly to do, so I had to imagine another version where animals are more of a symbolism that was left in statues, but the characters themselves are more of a spirits that appeared in more of a human form and human scale. This sparked some inspiration for imagining figures that are cursed. Each presents a challenge to the player, and their characteristic was represented by missing body parts. Not sure if you can recognize, but these are what eventually becomes Elders of the Isle and Elder of Prairie. Here are ideas for Guardians for Rain and Sunset, eventually becomes Elder of Forest and Elders of Valley. Having all these characters also helped spark an idea of unifying them as a group. This concept made me imagine them as a royal family of some sort, and they used to be together, but now they are separate, and the mystery is to be discovered by players. Royal family made us think that we need a king, which would make sense to appear at the end. Distributing them across the game and breaking them into levels helped us organize the flow and the story of the game. Some more ideation in 3D prototypes. You can see how they evolve and progress into what we know of them today. Again, a disclaimer that the story behind these characters I'm sharing here are preliminary ones, and I'm not explaining the official lore of the game. So now that we have a structure of the world, the creatures, characters, and the quote-unquote bosses, it is time to assemble them together into one game. We did determine that we wanted to base our flow on the theme of the time of day. We associated different emotions across 6 different times as dawn, day, rain, sunset, dusk, and night, and associated colors and shape languages to each. We then applied an emotional curve inspired by a hero's journey and designed a flow for the experience, associated by levels and characters at each stage. We then put everything together to test the flow of the game, a story of a player waking up on an island, finding ways into the sky, uncovering mysteries of the lost civilization, and then eventually ascending to space for an overview effect. You might think we have figured out pretty much everything at this point, but that's not true. Devil's in the detail. I will share only some of the different iterations we have made on each of these levels. Dawn, we knew it would start on the island, but there was still some idea of mixing a mirage of the modern world to make this initial level give a strong sense of threshold. We played with the idea of leaving our world to enter the realm sky. More ideation of the isle. We had versions where you rowed a boat to enter the sky realm. The concept of the boat was debated until pretty late in the phase. The shapes of the clouds at this level was also iterated a lot. A giant wall of clouds to fly over, or a hole in the clouds to penetrate through. This level has been, by far the most iterated level. We have explored so many ways to lead up into the sky. Next up is Prairie. We used to call these realms by the time of day until pretty late. Many of us, including myself, still reference these levels by the time of day. These concepts by Tom, terrain in the sky. We wanted to reference biomes from high altitude. Here, a concept of bird's nest. This is pretty close to what we see in our game today in Prairie. We have settled on round and soft shape language because of the secondary layered theme of a human life. This is the second stage after the birth. It's the childhood stage, so we wanted everything to be round and soft. Pretty close to what we know of Prairie today, but at one point we wanted players to go through a cave before coming out to see the blue sky, to contrast the open, vast feel of the sky. You can see here in the sketches some preliminary versions of the gates that led to different levels, or shrines that helped you change dresses you wear. And then forest. We needed emotional curve that dips down a bit, so we added rain as another time of day. Rain was another tricky level. This was probably the most iterated level after dawn. We tried enchanted forest feel. We also tried this level to be to have an elder who seduces you. We also tried to make this level like puzzles or mazes, trying to visualize complexity of the adolescence as, you know, the human life theme. This is the third level. After childhood, you became adolescence. There's a mixed emotion. This is a time of the life where your emotion is really complicated. So we tried to also represent that visually. Another important aspect of this level was introduction of industrialization. The third layer of the story was civilization, story of the civilization. So after the civilization has lived in harmony with nature, they start the industrialization. Early concept of the temple shows the dark stone penetrating through the building, and the interior of the temple was also looking very different. After the rain is sunset, emotion raises to a peak. We wanted the gameplay to be more dynamic here, most dynamic. It represents the peak of your life when everything is exciting. This concept by Tom really captured the emotion we wanted for this level. The peak of mountains penetrating through the clouds also became base for our starting area of the Valley of Triumph. Civilization was also at its peak, so this was meant to be most decorative and rich in materials. Many of the concepts here became the base for the key areas in this level. Can you recognize them? After a peak, there's a fall. Dusk was aligned with the midlife crisis for the human life theme, or the post-apocalyptic theme time for the civilization theme. Shadi and Kang jumped in at this time of the production and helped us polish some of the ideas for this level. This was the time when we tried to expand each realms to have various sub-levels. Temple in the Golden Wasteland. Exterior is pretty close to what we see today, but the interior became a lot different. Night is a vault of knowledge. Visual inspiration of this realm was a library and the ethereal dream. Following the arc of the civilization, this is supposed to be most advanced, but we didn't want to make this to feel too technological.